The new 7th Generation Mustang has been revealed, and it looks good. But does it look better than its predecessor? Let's take a deep dive into the overall design of the Mustang, and its new high-performance variant, the Dark Horse. The first thing that stands out to me on the new GT is the heavy brow line that flows from the outer wingtips of the headlights all the way across the top of the grille. It's not altogether different from the similar shape on the previous Mustang, but something about the flatness of the brow line makes it immediately noticeable to me. The headlights are completely redesigned, featuring 3 lenses and a DRL eyebrow that incorporates sequential turn signals. The headlights are shortened from the previous generation to give a more squinty-eyed appearance. Between the headlights is the new grille, which seems a bit strange to me this time around. The wide hexagon grille has been lightly redesigned for this new generation, with the nostrils on either side adopting a more square appearance than they used to be on the previous Mustang. Below the grille is a wide, gloss black bit that covers the crash beam. Visually, this increases the height of the grille, but it seems odd that this part wouldn't be the color of the body. Perhaps this was an effort to differentiate between generations, but to me it complicates an otherwise very elegant front bumper. The lower fascia and the outer grilles draw inspiration from the previous GT350, being nearly identical in shape, but the new car integrates the turn signals into the headlights rather than the outside grilles. Finally, a small chin spoiler adorns the bottom of the bumper. Moving up to the hood, the Mustang wears a wide functional vent to exhaust hot air from the radiator. The center of the hood bulges upward and is flanked by valley lines. The outside edges of the hood feature creases that flow from the corners of the grille to the mirrors. Looking down the fender, the rib that ran from the front fender to the rear through the door panel has disappeared, leaving a rather plain-looking fender with nothing but the 5.0 badge to draw your eye. The plainness continues through the doors, which are fairly flat save for a very subtle line that crosses through the door handles and flows into the pronounced rear haunches. The bottom of the doors incorporates some aerodynamic styling that continues to the black textured side skirt. Ford lowered the windowsill on the new Mustang to aid with sight lines and create a less cavernous environment on the inside. As a much more track-focused car this time, the taller window allows helmets to get through without having to open the door, which is important in the event of a rollover crash. Moving to the rear fenders, there's a peculiar zigzag behind the doors that gives the appearance that 2 shapes are intersecting. At the top of the fenders, the round, smooth look from before now takes on a more angled appearance, utilizing harder edges and straighter lines. It's the rear of the car that some people have been comparing to the Camaro, and I didn't see it at first, but strictly looking at the rear of the car, there's a surprising amount of congruence. The angles and appearance at the tops of the fenders are almost identical. The bulge from the top of the fender to the wheel well is very similar, and even the marker light behind the wheel has moved to follow the contours of the wheel, instead of being parallel to the ground like the previous Mustang. The rear of the new Mustang is perhaps the biggest departure from previous generations. The signature 3-bar taillights are sliced in half by a deep crease that runs the width of the rear fascia of the car. The bottom edge of the trunk lid dips below the taillight line and creates a trunk shape unfamiliar to Mustangs. There's a curious amount of unused space under the taillights, and the lower edge of this empty plane is sharp and defined. The lower edge of the car is dominated by multifaceted black plastic, which incorporates the reverse lights, the exhaust cutouts, and a simulated diffuser shape. It's not the most aesthetically pleasing look, and certainly a step back in terms of design in my opinion. Black plastic at the rear of the car seems to be a pervasive design trend that probably won't be going anywhere anytime soon. Finally, quad slash-cut exhaust tips round out the rear of the car. The wheels on the new Mustang are very different from previous generations. They look like they were designed by BMW, and they add a strange visual complexity to the car. Maybe I'm just a fan of simpler wheel designs. Less is more, if you will. It remains to be seen what the general public has to say about the new wheel designs, but I can't say that I'm a fan. The 7th Generation GT uses an upgraded version of the Coyote 5.0 V8. The new motor gets a slight power bump, and now uses dual throttle bodies to help channel more air to the intake manifold. The GT now puts out 480 horsepower, plus a little more if you opt for the performance exhaust. The interior has been overhauled and thoroughly modernized. The classic double cowl dash has been canned in favor of a large touchscreen display with an integrated digital dash. The whole design gives the appearance of a tablet that's been mounted on top of the dash, rather than integrated into it. All of the climate controls have been implemented into the touchscreen, but thankfully there is still a volume knob to complement the steering wheel controls. The air vents have been relocated below the touchscreen, and below those are a selection of toggle buttons. I only know what 3 of these 6 buttons do. I assume that one of them is a track mode of some kind. Finally, under these switches is where the ports and wireless charging are located. The shifter appears to be a carryover from the previous generation car, but the handbrake certainly is not. The handbrake handle in the new Mustang operates an electronic emergency brake, but unlike most electronic handbrakes, this one can be used to lock the rear wheels and initiate a drift the same way as a cable-operated brake. Rounding out the new interior is a redesigned steering wheel. The rim of the wheel features a flat bottom, and the spokes are more three-dimensional than before. The airbag is hexagonal now instead of round, and the whole wheel looks a lot more premium than before. I was lukewarm on the new Mustang until Ford revealed the newest Mustang variant, the Dark Horse. Effectively a replacement for the Mach 1, this is a high-performance version of the GT intended for track use. The 5-liter V8 gets pumped to 500 horsepower, thanks to a few component donations from the previous Shelby GT500. The front bumper looks far more aggressive than the standard GT, with a tall rectangular grille and flared nostrils on the corners next to the headlights. A matte black accent below the headlights helps differentiate it from a GT, as well as the more pronounced splitter at the bottom edge of the bumper. The Dark Horse gets fender extensions similar to those found on the C7 Z06, both for aerodynamics and also to accommodate wider wheels and tires. The wheels themselves are a far simpler 10-spoke design and house larger brakes and 6-piston calipers. At the rear of the car, a high downforce version of the GT's wing adorns the trunk lid, and the diffuser also has been modified for greater aerodynamic efficiency. Finally, unique Dark Horse badges on the trunk and fenders complete the transformation to what could be one of the most capable Mustangs ever. In my opinion, the 6th generation Mustang was amazing, a modern design that paid homage to the past while being thoroughly modern. It remains to be seen if the 7th generation Mustang will live up to this same standard, but I have high hopes.